It was 11 o'clock at night. My wedding dress was hanging on the back of the closet door, still in the dry cleaner's plastic. The candle my best friend Cassandra had brought as a gift was burning on the nightstand. Tomorrow I was getting married. Tomorrow I would be Amanda Holloway. Not Amanda Pierce anymore. Not the girl her mother always said needed to take better care of herself. Tomorrow everything was going to change. I picked up my phone just to see if I had any messages from Ryan, and I did. She's better than you in every way. And she doesn't weigh 260 pounds. I stared at the screen so long the light went dark on its own. When I turned it back on, the message was still there. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a typo. It wasn't sent to me by accident, because right below it came another one. You deserve better than this, Amanda. I'm sorry. My stomach dropped through the floor. My face burned. Not from anger. Not yet. It burned from a shame so physical, so real, that I could feel the heat crawling up my neck to the tips of my ears. I sat on the edge of the bed, looked at the dress, and couldn't cry. I just sat there, in silence, breathing, just breathing. I read the message. I didn't reply. I blew out the candle. I lay down in my clothes, and I spent the rest of that night wide awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the fan while the most obvious question in the world took shape inside me. Who was she? Neither of them knew what was about to happen. Ryan thought he had shattered me that night, and in some ways, he had. But nobody, not him, not my mom, not the person I least expected, knew that that text had lit something inside me that was never going to go out. That message was the worst thing anyone had ever given me, and also the most transformative thing that ever happened in my life. Because when I found out who she was, when the last piece snapped into place, my entire life changed shape, and so did theirs. Just not the way they imagined. If you've ever loved someone who used your body against you, if you've ever woken up on a day that was supposed to be the happiest of your life and felt the floor disappear from under you, stay with me. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications. Actually, better yet, tell me in the comments what's the cruelest thing anyone who claimed to love you ever said to you. I want to read every single one. But hold on. To understand how bad that moment hit, you need to understand what it had cost me to even get to that night. Because the Amanda who opened that text wasn't a fragile woman. She was a woman who had survived years of humiliation inside her own home and had still managed to love for real, or at least to believe she was. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was 32 years old. I worked as an instructional coordinator at a private K-12 school in Naperville, Illinois, out in the western suburbs of Chicago. I was good at my job. Everybody knew it. Teachers came to me with problems. Parents praised me at open houses. The principal called me out by name in staff meetings when our numbers went up. I was proud of what I did. I had a life. I went out Saturdays with Cassandra and my friend Deja for brunch at the Green Street Market, watched too much TV, kept a little herb garden on my apartment windowsill, loved to cook pasta on Sunday evenings with music playing in the background. I existed fully, but with a constant noise underneath everything that I had learned to pretend I couldn't hear. That noise had a name. It had my mother's face. Patricia Pierce was a woman of careful gestures and precise words. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. She humiliated with the accuracy of someone who had been practicing for decades. From the time I was 12, when my body started changing in ways she didn't approve of, she had her repertoire. "Amanda, are you really going to eat all of that?" said with a soft smile, like it was just an observation. "Amanda, look how great your cousin Brittany looks since she started going to the gym," said in front of everyone at Sunday dinner, while Brittany turned red with embarrassment and I swallowed my food without tasting it. "Amanda, I say these things because I love you. You were so pretty when you were little." That last one was the one that cut deepest, as though love had a weight limit. My sister Nicole was 2 years older than me, thin her whole life, one of those people who eats whatever they want and never changes size. She never used that against me, at least that's what I thought. We were close growing up, shared a room until I was 18, kept each other's secrets, or I thought we did. What I didn't know then, what I would only find out much later, in the worst possible way, is that there's a kind of betrayal that doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the last person you'd ever put on the suspect list. It comes wearing the face of someone you loved before you understood what love was supposed to mean. The early signs that something was wrong I ignored for years. I ignored the way my clothes kept getting looser while I told myself it was just how the fabric was cut. I ignored the fact that I had stopped showing up in family photos, not because nobody invited me, but because I found a way to stay out of the frame. I deleted pictures of myself before anyone could ask to see them. I avoided full-length mirrors. When I needed to see a doctor, I put it off for weeks with any excuse I could find, because I knew what was coming. The comment about my weight, the scale in the hallway, The feeling of being measured not as a clinical data point but as a verdict on my character. The voice that followed me around at 2 in the morning was my mother's voice. You don't take care of yourself. You have no discipline. You got this from your father's side, as if my body were some kind of shameful inheritance. There was a Christmas, I was 27, when my Aunt Gloria, my mom's older sister, showed up at our family gathering with a present wrapped specifically for me. Right in front of everyone. With that smile some people mistake for generosity, she said, Amanda, I got you something really special. It was a 3-month subscription to a calorie tracking app, paid for, with a printed gift card, in my hand, at Christmas dinner. With my cousin Brittany sitting next to me who got a Nordstrom gift card. Nobody said anything. Everyone looked at their plates. I said thank you. I used the app for exactly 2 days before I deleted it. But that gift, that one I couldn't delete for a long time. Another moment, Nicole's 30th birthday party. Small gathering at the house, maybe 20 people. I had made the cake. I used my grandmother's recipe, worked on it for 2 days. It came out perfect. When someone complimented it, my mom smiled and said, yes, Amanda has such a gift in the kitchen. It's just a shame that being a good cook doesn't help when you need to eat less. Everyone gave that uncomfortable laugh of people who don't know what to do with what they just heard. Nicole looked away. I cut more slices of cake without saying a word. After that night, I went 3 weeks without cooking for myself. I ordered delivery. I ate staring at my phone, never sitting at the table, as if the table were a space I didn't deserve to occupy alone. Another moment. My graduation ceremony for my master's in special education, which had taken me 2 years to finish while working full-time. The event was at the Hilton in downtown Naperville. I was happy, in a way I rarely let myself be, because happiness that big always felt like a risk. When I was getting ready, my mom walked into the bedroom and stood there watching me do my makeup in the mirror. That dress looks nice, she said. But wouldn't the one you wore to your cousin's wedding have been better? The other one was more slimming. More slimming. I finished my makeup, went to my graduation, got my diploma, smiled for the photo. And in the pictures from that night, the ones that exist on Cassandra's phone, because on mine I only took shots from the waist up, I have a smile that looks just slightly too small for my face. There was also a stretch where I tried to diet on my own for 4 months. I cut out carbs, drank green tea at 6 every morning, walked to work whenever I could. I lost 15 pounds. At my next visit to my mom's, she looked at me with that expression of someone who wants to compliment you but can't do it without conditions and said, "You're making progress. Keep it up." As though months of effort deserved a keep it up from someone who never once asked how I was feeling, only how I was looking. I drove home and ate half a sleeve of Oreos standing in front of the open refrigerator, not because I was hungry, because I needed to put something between me and that sentence. That was the environment I was in when I met Ryan Holloway. He showed up at a mutual friend's graduation party. Tall, easy to talk to, worked as a project manager for a construction firm in the Loop. The first time we talked, he made me laugh 3 times in 10 minutes, and I thought, this one's different. He texted late at night just to ask how my day had gone. He showed up at my school with coffee and a breakfast sandwich when I had a rough morning. He said I was the smartest person he knew. For a while, a long while, almost 2 years, I believed I had found someone who saw me past my body. But then there was the dinner at my mom's birthday. It was September, one of those warm evenings that still feel like summer in the suburbs. We were all at my mom's house in Lysol. Me, Ryan, Nicole, her husband Derek, and my mom at the head of the table like always, presiding over the whole scene with the smile of someone who knows exactly what she's doing. Dinner was fine until dessert. My mom had made chocolate cake, my favorite since I was a kid, and when I reached for a slice, she said without looking up from her plate, "Amanda, are you sure? You ate a lot already today." The table went quiet for a second. Derek looked at his glass. Nicole cut a piece of her own cake without saying anything. And Ryan didn't say a single word. He just looked at his own plate with that expression I learned later to recognize. The expression of someone who agrees but doesn't want to be held responsible for it. I ate the cake, slowly, carefully, like I needed to justify every forkful. And when we got home, I asked Ryan what he thought about what had just happened. He shrugged. "She's just worried about you, Amanda. That's love. She wants what's best for you." I went to the bathroom, closed the door, sat down on the cold tile floor, and stayed there for almost half an hour without doing anything. That moment, that exact moment, was the first brick. I didn't see it then. I only saw it later when I had accumulated entire walls built out of bricks like that. But the incident that truly broke something in me, that shattered something I spent months trying to name, happened the following February on a Saturday morning. I had hired a personal trainer, Not because anyone asked me to, because I wanted to. Because I was tired of waking up with no energy, and I wanted to change something on my own terms. Brandon Walsh trained out of a gym in Wheaton, charged $240 a month for 3 sessions per week. The first month, he seemed committed. The second month, it started. It was a Saturday, 7 in the morning. The gym was pretty full, maybe 8-10 clients spread across the equipment. I was on the treadmill trying to keep the pace he had set when he walked over with his phone in his hand and said, loudly enough for 2 people nearby to hear, "Amanda, what did you eat last night?" I slowed the treadmill down. "I had dinner." "Why?" "Because I can see it right here." He pointed at my midsection with a familiarity I had never given him permission to have. "I need to know what you're eating because there's no point in doing the work here if you're going to go home and undo everything." The 2 people nearby stopped what they were doing for a couple of seconds. Not long, but long enough. My face went hot. I had grilled chicken and a salad. Like a normal person, he crossed his arms. "Amanda, you have to understand that your body works differently. You can't eat the same way other people do. With your situation, every slip adds up. I've had clients with the same profile as yours. The ones who followed my plan exactly got results. The others, well, you can guess how that went." "I can guess." I didn't say that. I stood on the stopped treadmill with the whole gym around me, the industrial fan blowing warm air at my face, and I swallowed it. I swallowed what I wanted to say, what I should have said, the response that existed somewhere inside me but couldn't yet find its way out. "Fine," I said. "Let's keep going." He smiled like someone who had scored a point. I got home at 9 in the morning, showered, sat on the edge of the bed and looked at the scale in the corner of the bathroom. I didn't step on it. I went to the kitchen, made coffee, and ate 2 pieces of toast in complete silence while I looked out the window at the parking lot. That afternoon, Ryan called, excited because he had found a caterer for our wedding. We had been engaged for 3 months. I said it sounded great. He said he loved me. I said I loved him too. I hung up and went to cry in the bathroom with the faucet running to cover the sound. When Cassandra asked what was wrong, I said I was tired. That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. The whole truth was that I was being buried alive. Every episode was another layer. My mom commenting on my wedding dress options. "Amanda, are you sure about that silhouette? With your figure, some cuts are more flattering." Brandon sending messages in the client group chat with diet tips that were, obviously, aimed directly at me even without using my name, because I was the only one in the group who was overweight. Ryan, 3 weeks before the wedding, trying to be gentle and achieving the opposite. "Babe, do you want to maybe get more serious about the nutritionist plan? Not for me, for you, so you feel amazing in your dress. You know how it is." No, I didn't know how it was, or I knew far too well. There was one doctor's appointment that is burned into my memory like a file I can't delete. I went to Dr. James Kellerman, a primary care physician I'd been seeing for 4 years through my work insurance. Because I had constant fatigue, my hair was falling out in the shower, and I woke up exhausted every morning no matter how many hours I slept. I sat down, described my symptoms carefully, and he listened, or pretended to listen, because when I finished, he turned his monitor toward me, showing a graph of my weight across my visits. "Look at this trend, Amanda. You've gained 14 pounds in 16 months. The fatigue you're describing is most likely a consequence of carrying excess weight. Your body is working harder, burning more energy just to function, so you feel more tired. It's not complicated." I took a breath. "Doctor, I would really like someone to look at me more carefully. I have a lot of symptoms that concern me. The exhaustion, the hair loss. I feel really bad, and I don't think my weight is the whole explanation." "Amanda," he cut me off with the condescending gentleness of someone who thinks they're being patient. "I understand it's easier to look for an external explanation, but medicine deals in objective data. What's driving your symptoms is what's on that scale. Lose the weight, and I think you'll see a real difference." I walked out of that office with a referral to a nutritionist, and the feeling that I had gone to a doctor to talk about myself and walked out having talked about my body as if they were 2 different things. The tests I asked about, he never ordered. Not a single one. The hair loss got worse. The fatigue didn't improve. I told myself it was wedding stress. The final blow before rock bottom came on a Sunday afternoon when my mom posted a link in the family group chat, a chat that had me, her, Nicole, Derek, an aunt and 2 cousins in it, to a WebMD article about the health risks of being sedentary and overweight. No comment, just the link. But everybody knew who it was for. Nobody said a word. Not a single person in that group responded with anything. And I sat there staring at that collective silence, that quiet complicity, and felt something break inside me differently than all the other times. Because it wasn't just my mom, it was all of them. Reading it, agreeing with it, Not one person in that group acting as any kind of shield. That night I didn't eat, not out of discipline, out of absence. I sat on the kitchen floor with my phone in my hand and realized I couldn't remember a single person in that group who had ever, even once, said, "Leave Amanda alone." Rock bottom has a different texture than everything that comes before it. It isn't loud, it's quiet in a way that hurts your ears. My rock bottom looked like a woman staring at the bathroom mirror at 2 a.m, 4 weeks before her wedding, wearing the oversized sweatshirt that had become a uniform because oversized sweatshirts don't make you confront the shape of your own body. The right side of the closet, my side, had been gradually taken over by clothes chosen for what they concealed. I couldn't even remember when that had happened. It was just there. The scale was turned to face the wall. I had done that on some day I can no longer pinpoint. I only know it was a day when the number made me stand and stare for too long, and I decided I didn't want it to have that kind of power anymore. But the problem is that when you turn the scale to the wall, the voices don't stop. And the voices were so many. My mom, Brandon, Dr. Kellerman, Ryan, sometimes gentle, sometimes frustrated, always with that phrase he thought was supportive. "I love you exactly as you are. I just want you to be happy, you know?" As if the weight were the reason for my unhappiness, and not the environment he himself was helping to build. I had started eating in a way that ashamed me, not because of what I was eating, but because of how. Fast, standing up in front of the open refrigerator, like I needed to finish before anyone caught me. Like eating was a criminal act that had to be hidden. And then the guilt that arrived before I even finished my last bite, like a timer going off. I was repeating, word for word, everything they had told me. I had internalized every comment until it became my own voice. "You have no self-control. You give up. You're weak." It wasn't my mother's voice anymore. It was mine. And that was the most frightening thing of all. The spark, the moment that changed the direction of everything, came from somewhere I didn't expect. It was Cassandra. We had made plans to get coffee at her apartment on a Saturday morning 2 weeks before the wedding. I showed up tense, talked about invitation logistics, the RSVP list, the cake. She let me take 3 sips of coffee and then said with no lead-up at all, "Amanda, stop for a second. How are you actually doing?" I opened my mouth to say fine, and nothing came out. She waited. "I don't know," I said finally. "I don't know if I want to get married." Silence. "It's not cold feet," I continued. "It's more like, I think I've spent 2 years trying to be the fiancé Ryan needed, the daughter my mom wanted, the client Brandon expected, and somewhere in there I lost track of who it was that was trying to be all those things." Cassandra set her mug down carefully. "You know what I think? I don't think you lost track. I think everyone around you has been telling you who you are for so long that you started to believe them. And that's not weakness, Amanda. That's what happens to any person when the environment they're living in never stops hitting the same spot." She took my hand. "You don't need to lose weight to be loved, but you do deserve to be healthy. And you deserve people around you who are genuinely rooting for you, not using you as a mirror to feel better about themselves." I cried. I cried in a way I hadn't in a long time. Not from shame, but from relief. The way you feel when you've been holding your breath too long and finally breathe. And it was that morning, in Cassandra's apartment smelling like fresh brewed coffee with sunlight coming through the blinds, that I made a decision that had nothing to do with the wedding, or the dress, or any number on any scale. I decided I was going to start treating myself like I deserved to be treated. Not for anyone else. For me. So did the wedding happen? No, the wedding did not happen. That same week, after coffee with Cassandra, Ryan sent that text. The text you already know about. The 11 o'clock at night text. The night before the wedding. While the dress hung waiting on the closet door. "She's better than you in every way. And she doesn't weigh 260 pounds. I read it and didn't respond. But the next morning, before any family arrived, before anything else, I called the venue coordinator and canceled everything. I paid the cancellation fee, $3,100, for breaking the contract with less than 48 hours notice, and I didn't regret a single cent of it. Ryan called me 27 times that day. I didn't answer once, but the question that kept circling in my head for days, filling every quiet moment, who was she? I suspected. But the suspicion was so absurd that I dismissed it every time it surfaced. It wasn't possible. It would be too cruel. It was the kind of thing that happened on reality TV, not in the real life of a real person in a real suburb outside Chicago. But it was real. I found out 12 days after canceling the wedding, by accident, in the most ordinary way imaginable. I had gone to pick up a jacket I'd left at my mom's house. It was a Tuesday, a weekday, at a time when normally no one would be home. But when I let myself in with my spare key, I heard voices in the hallway. my mom's voice, and another voice I recognized before I even turned the corner. It was Nicole, and she was crying. "I didn't want it to end up like this, Mom. I didn't plan any of it," my mom answered in that low, controlled voice of hers. "What's done is done. You should never have let it go this far, but I have feelings for him. It's been almost a year." I walked into the room. Both of them turned toward me at the same time. My mom went pale. My sister who shared a room with me, who knew every fear I had, who had been trusted with my secrets. Nicole closed her eyes. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. It felt like a month. "Nicole," I said, just the name. She opened her eyes. "Amanda, how long?" She swallowed. "Amanda, how long, Nicole?" "Almost a year," she said in a whisper. "Almost a year, while I was choosing a dress, while I was finalizing the guest list, while I was paying deposits and mailing invitations and going to the rehearsal and trying, with everything I had, to believe that I deserved to be happy." The two of them had been together for almost a year. My mom tried to speak. I held up a hand. "Don't." I got the jacket. I left. On the drive home from Liesel, sitting in traffic on I-88 with the jacket on the passenger seat, I thought about one thing, just one thing. They thought they had destroyed me. They didn't know that I had just stopped finally destroying myself. In the days that followed, I entered a kind of state that Cassandra later described as quiet construction mode. It wasn't active anger. It was more like cold clarity. I was starting to see the whole pattern. Ryan had commented on my weight in different ways over 2 years. My mom had fed that narrative with every dinner, every comment, every link dropped into the family group chat. And Nicole had spent almost a year staying very close, asking about the wedding plans, asking about Ryan, asking how things were going. While she was with him, I made an appointment with a new doctor, not Dr. Kellerman. I researched, asked Cassandra, found Dr. Patricia Monroe, a primary care physician, practice on the North Shore in Evanston. I booked an appointment for 2 weeks out. But before that appointment, there was the confrontation I didn't plan. And that turned out to be maybe the most important one of all. It was Ryan who called me from a different number, because I had blocked his. I answered without knowing who it was. "Amanda, let me explain." I recognized the voice on the third word, and I didn't hang up. Not because I wanted the explanation, because I needed him to know that I already knew everything. "I'm listening," I said. "It was a mistake. I know it was. We started getting closer through conversations about you. She was worried about you." I gave a short, dry laugh. "She was worried about me." "Right. Amanda, I swear I never meant to hurt you, but I was confused. We were going through a rough patch." "What rough patch, Ryan?" "You know, the weight stuff. I know I shouldn't have said it the way I did, but I was frustrated. I wanted to help you take care of yourself. I was worried about you." I took a slow breath. I felt every muscle in my face settle into an expression that had no name. It wasn't anger. It wasn't contempt. It was something cleaner than both. "Ryan, you sent me a text the night before our wedding saying another woman was better than me in every way because she didn't weigh 260 pounds. You weren't frustrated. You had been with my sister for almost a year. I'd like you to stop using my weight as the explanation for your choices. You didn't betray my diet. You betrayed my trust. Those are two completely different things." Silence. "Amanda, don't call me again. On this number or any other." I hung up. I sat there looking at my phone for a minute. Then I went to make coffee. Life continued. My appointment with Dr. Patricia Monroe was on a Thursday morning, the kind of gray, drizzly Chicago day that doesn't exactly rain but won't quit either. I walked into her office genuinely braced for more of the same, ready to hear about weight, about the scale, about willpower. What happened was different. She greeted me sitting not behind her desk but in a chair on the side of it. She asked me to tell her how I was actually doing. Not about my weight, about me. So I did. The exhaustion of dragging myself through every day. Eating standing up in front of the open fridge, fast and ashamed, guilt landing before the last bite. The feeling that my own body had become enemy territory, that I spent every day bracing for the next comment from someone. She took notes without interrupting. Then she was quiet for a moment, like she was choosing her words carefully. "What you're describing isn't a lack of willpower. It's what happens to any person who has spent years being evaluated instead of seen. The body holds on to that. The mind holds it even longer." I couldn't help it. My previous doctor told me everything was because of my weight, that if I just lost weight, I'd feel better. She looked up from her notepad. "I understand, and I want you to know that's not how I work. I don't treat numbers on a scale, I treat people." That sentence, "I treat people," undid something in me that I don't know how to describe exactly. I didn't cry in her office. I held it together. but I walked out of that appointment different than I'd walked in. The irony of the whole situation was almost too large to fit inside a story. Dr. Kellerman had been seeing me for 4 years without once asking how I was doing emotionally, without once connecting the environment I was living in to anything happening in my body. Brandon had been docking me for every dietary slip without ever asking himself what was driving me to eat the way I did. Fast, alone, flooded with shame. And my mother, with decades of commentary about my body, had never once considered that the environment she helped create had contributed to exactly what she spent all that time criticizing. They all thought they knew me. None of them had ever asked anything that actually mattered. I began working with a new dietitian that Dr. Monroe referred me to, Keisha Thompson, who practiced out of an office in Lincoln Park. My first appointment with Keisha lasted an hour and 20 minutes. She asked about my relationship with food, my family background, how I felt when I was eating. She never looked at the scale without first asking me whether I wanted to weigh in. And when I said not yet, that I needed some time without a number, she said, "That's fine, let's focus on how you feel." It seemed simple. It was revolutionary. In the months that followed, something happened that I hadn't expected. My body started to respond, not suddenly. This wasn't a movie with a motivational soundtrack. It was gradual, almost imperceptible, week by week. The guilt that arrived before the last bite started to ease up. I stopped eating in secret. I started sitting at the table again. I started cooking again, not to justify myself but because I actually enjoyed it. And alongside that internal shift, I began losing weight. Not because someone had shamed me into it, but because for the first time, I was on my own side. I started walking in the mornings at Centennial Park, not counting calories, just to feel the air, to watch the ducks on the pond, to exist in a space where nobody was evaluating me. Meanwhile, things around me began to shift. My mom called 3 times in the first month after I found out about Nicole. I didn't pick up. The second month, she sent a text. "Amanda, are you okay?" I replied. "Yes." She tried calling again. I didn't answer. Brandon lost 4 clients that fall. 2 of them were people I knew from the gym who had heard, at different moments, comments similar to what he'd said to me. I wasn't the one who talked to them. That's just what happens when patterns continue without any accountability. Dr. Kellerman, him I didn't let go quietly. I wrote a detailed review on the insurance platform describing the appointments, the symptoms I reported that were never taken seriously, and how I only felt genuinely heard when I changed providers. I didn't use aggressive language. I used facts, dates, symptoms, his exact responses. The review stayed up. 3 other women left similar reviews in the months that followed. I don't know if there were any formal consequences, but I do know that his profile on Health Grades today has less than half the positive reviews it used to. It was Cassandra who told me about Jasmine. We were at a coffee shop in Wicker Park one Saturday afternoon when she said carefully, "Amanda, there's something I've been going back and forth about telling you. Tell me, do you remember Jasmine Carter? She trained with Brandon maybe 2 years ago." I vaguely remembered. A younger woman, natural hair. I remember her. Why? She ran into me at a work event last week. When she found out I was your friend, she asked if you were still training with Brandon. When I said no, she was so relieved. She told me she left after a scene she went through that sounded almost exactly like what you described to me. And she said she wasn't the only one, that back when she was there, 2 other women left for the same reason. I put my coffee down. Does she still have contact with those women? She said yes. Can you connect us? Cassandra smiled. I was waiting for you to ask. Jasmine Carter was 26, worked as a graphic designer, and when we met for coffee the next day, a Sunday morning, a place in Logan Square, she talked for 40 minutes straight. She had kept everything. Dates, exact phrases, specific incidents. She had texts from Brandon on her phone, sent to the client group chat, commenting on her body in a group where she was the only one with excess weight. She had a screenshot of an anonymous poll he had created in the group, a poll about which type of client has the hardest time getting results, with options she could identify even without names attached. I looked at that screenshot and felt something click into place. Jasmine, would you be willing to file a formal complaint with the other women? Emotional damages, public harassment. She looked at me with an expression I recognized. It was the expression of someone who had spent too long believing they didn't have the right to push back. Do you think it would actually do anything? I think it's what he deserves. But more than that, I think it's what we deserve. This story needs to exist somewhere outside of our memories. She agreed. The other 2 women agreed. The complaint was filed with the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, the state body that licenses personal trainers and fitness professionals, along with copies of the texts, screenshots of the group chat, and written statements. I didn't follow the process obsessively day to day. I had learned by then that staying fixated on the people who had hurt me was energy I was taking away from myself. But Cassandra, who has a natural gift for tracking information, told me 4 months later that Brandon had received a formal warning and that the gym he worked at had ended his contract. I didn't celebrate. I noted it. The confrontation with my mom and Nicole happened on a Sunday. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed witness. I needed the people who had known me my whole life to hear me say out loud what had happened, and to know that I knew. I drove to my mom's house in Liesel at a time I had set by text. I'm coming Sunday at 4 a.m. I need Nicole to be there too. Both of them were in the living room when I arrived. My mom had made coffee, a reflex, a gesture toward normalcy trying to cover up nerves. Nicole was sitting with a glass of water held in both hands like it was something to hold on to. I sat down. I didn't take any coffee. I'm going to talk, and I need both of you to listen without interrupting. You can say whatever you want when I'm done. My mom opened her mouth. Without interrupting, Mom, she closed it. I talked for almost half an hour. I talked about the years of comments about my body, about the family dinners where what I was eating was a topic of conversation, about the link in the group chat, about Ryan saying she was worried about my health while she was with him, about feeling invisible inside a doctor's office because a doctor decided all he needed to see was the scale, never asking how I was actually living, never treating me as a whole person, about what it was like to get to that night before the wedding and find that text waiting for me while the dress hung on the closet door. I spoke in a flat, even voice. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. When I finished, there was a silence that lasted the length of 2 long breaths. Nicole spoke first. Amanda, I know there's nothing I can do to undo any of it, but I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her. Nicole, you were with my fiancé for almost a year while I was planning our wedding. You were next to me through every single conversation I had about that relationship. You knew everything. That's not wanting to hurt someone. That's choosing what's convenient for you without caring what it costs me. She looked at the glass in her hands. And you, I said, turning to my mom. You spent decades telling me you were saying these things out of love. But love doesn't humiliate. Love doesn't drop a WebMD article into the family group chat without a single word of explanation. Love doesn't go silent when everyone around you is taking shots. My mom's eyes were wet. I didn't know I was doing that to you. You did know, Mom. You could see that I felt terrible after every comment. You watched that happen. You kept going. I only ever wanted what was best for you. I know you believe that, and I also know that believing it doesn't change the effect. You can want what's best for me and still have hurt me for years. Both of those things are true at the same time. Silence. What do you want from me? My mom asked, in a voice I had never heard from her, smaller, without the usual control. I want you both to know that I know, and I needed to say it out loud, in front of you, so I could close this chapter and move forward. I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to say goodbye to a version of myself that doesn't exist anymore. I stood. I'm going to keep having a relationship with both of you because I choose to, but it's going to be different, and my body is never going to be a topic in that relationship again. If anyone brings it up, that's the last time I show up. I left. On the drive back to my apartment, getting back onto the highway as the sun started going down over the flat Illinois horizon, I thought about how I was in the exact same geography I had always known. Same roads, same exits, same water towers, but I was somewhere else entirely. Ryan appeared one last time, by text, because I had blocked his number, but he used Nicole's, not knowing I had blocked hers too. The text came from an unknown number, but I recognized the way he wrote. Amanda, I know I don't have any right to ask for anything, but I need you to know that what I feel for you is real. What happened was a massive mistake. If you give me one more chance. I read it all the way through, and then I responded. For the last and only time. Ryan, you sent me a text the night before our wedding telling me another woman was better than me in every way because she didn't weigh 260 pounds. That woman was my sister. You didn't make one mistake. You made choices, repeated choices, over almost a year. There's no chance to give because there's no amount of regret that undoes a decision. Take care of yourself. I didn't respond to anything after that. I blocked the unknown number. I went to make coffee. It's been 14 months since that night with the wedding dress on the closet door. I drank my coffee looking out the window of the apartment I redecorated with the money I had saved for the honeymoon. I bought a new couch, painted the living room a sage green I had always loved and never dared to, put more plants on the windowsill. The apartment smells like basil in the mornings. I've lost 89 pounds in the last 14 months. I'm not going to pretend that number doesn't exist, it does. But what matters more is what's underneath it. A body I've treated with respect for the first time in my adult life, that I've fed with care instead of guilt, that I've moved because I wanted to, not because someone was shaming me into it. Dr. Monroe is still my doctor. Keisha has become something close to a friend, in a professional and appropriate way, but genuine. I joined a lap swimming class on Tuesday and Thursday mornings at the Naperville Recreation Center. Turns out I love the water. At work, I was promoted to Director of Curriculum and Instruction at the start of the year. Not because I lost weight, because I was always good at my job, and I finally stopped sabotaging myself in meetings because I thought I didn't deserve to take up space. Cassandra is still Cassandra, constant, honest there. Nicole and I have a relationship I would describe as civil and distant. She and Ryan got married in October. I was not at the wedding, not to punish anyone, but because I genuinely did not want to be there. My mom called on my birthday. I picked up. It was a 12-minute conversation about the weather, work, and nothing in particular. She didn't mention my body. I'm grateful for that. Not to her, but for the fact that what was said on that Sunday finally landed somewhere. Brandon, I heard from Jasmine, is now training clients out of a parking lot on weekends. No gym affiliation. His online reviews are what they are. Dr. Kellerman, I don't follow what's happening with him. And Ryan, I don't think about him. Not because I've pretended he didn't happen, but because he became irrelevant in the most honest possible way. Before I wrap up, I need to say something I wish someone had said to me a long time ago, and that might be why you're still here. Medical weight bias is real, and its consequences go far beyond one uncomfortable appointment. When a healthcare provider treats you like a number on a scale instead of a whole person, when they don't ask how you're living, what's going on in your life, what you're actually feeling, they are not taking care of you. They are dismissing you. You have the right, and I'd say the responsibility to yourself, to change doctors when you don't feel heard, to refuse to accept just lose weight as an answer, to demand that someone look you in the eye and address what you are actually going through. You can ask for a second opinion. You can walk out of a provider's office and never go back. You can find someone who treats people, not numbers. That is allowed. Family body commentary is one of the hardest things to name because it comes wrapped in love. When a family member comments on your body out of concern, hold on to this question. Would they say that to a thin person, in that same tone, in front of those same people? If the answer is no, it isn't concern, it's control. It's humiliation with an emotional excuse attached. You can love your family and not allow them to comment on your body. Those two things coexist. Internalized weight stigma, when other people's voices become your own inner voice, is the quietest and most damaging kind. If you eat in shame, if you avoid mirrors, if you feel like you don't deserve space, it's because someone taught you that, and what was taught can be unlearned. Not quickly, not easily, but it can be. Therapy helps. Providers who respect you help. Friends like Cassandra help more than I can say. You have the right to leave the doctor who doesn't listen, the trainer who humiliates you, the nutritionist who makes you feel guilty for eating. That's not giving up. That's recognizing that you deserve a team that works with you, not against you. And if you are living inside a relationship, romantic, family, professional, where your body is constantly being used as an argument against you, that is not love. That is something else. And you deserve to know the difference. The woman who hid her body in oversized hoodies and deleted photos before anyone could ask to see them doesn't exist anymore. In her place is someone I genuinely admire, not because of any number on any scale, but because of the courage she found to look at everything that happened and decide she was not going to become it. The best response to the people who tried to make me smaller was not revenge. It was waking up every day and choosing myself first. If this story touched something in you, if you recognized yourself in any part of it, if you've ever been that person eating fast and alone in front of an open refrigerator, that person cropping yourself out of photos, that person swallowing the response you should have said, share this video with someone who needs to hear that she is not alone, that the problem was never the body, that it was always the environment. If you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. There are so many more stories coming, and every one of them was told by someone who survived what they should never have had to survive. Tell me in the comments, what was the moment you realized you had been making yourself smaller than you actually are? And what made you decide that had to end? I want to read every single story. Thank you for staying until the end. Your presence here means more than you know.